Hello and welcome again. This is me, Nafith. In this video, we're going to look at how to generate certificate sign request. First of all, we will download the CA certificate and put it into the client trusted route. Now the client trusts the CA. We will use the openssl tool to generate certificate sign request with a private key. Submit that one to the certificate authority, generate certificate. Install that certificate on the controller. The controller also trusts the CA. When the client tries to go to the web browser of the controller, that should not generate any error message in this case, and there will be a valid certificate icon as you can see clearly. Let's go. That's the Windows server or the CA server, Certificate Authority server. And if we bring the server manager, we go for tools. Then you go certificate or certification authority. So that's a certification authority itself. So if you like, this is the route for the company, the CA. Now notice that if you click on the issued certificates, you will find a lot of these certificates have been issued, including to the server itself. For this to work, the route that has initiated or the route or the CA, the root CA that issued the certificate. Notice that the root CA name training-aruba-ad-CA, that has to be placed into the machine trusted root certificate. Let's go and have a look at that. This should take you to this IIS after we log in. To get to the certificate authority here, we go cert SRV. That should get us to this location. This is where you're running certification authority in this case. Now, what to do? If you click on the HTTPS, because the fact that we have installed the certificate for the CA in the trusted route, we look into the certificate. You can view it, and you can. It's a valid certificate, says in here. It has the public key information. Subject public key. It has a serial number. That's a serial number 0054. That is the serial number for the server that signed this one. Now, who did sign this server? This server now. This is the one that has signed this server is the CA itself. Now, as I said to you, we needed to install that CA in the trusted route. How to do this? You would like to download that CA certificate. So download the CA certificate, and you can then download the CA itself certificate, deploy this one, the trusted route. That will result into this certificate will be downloaded in trusted route. We can say open, and we can say open. And of course, we can install certificate which is already been installed. If you look at details of that CA, you will notice that is the one we've seen. That is the serial number for the CA itself, the certificate that is for the corporate or the enterprise private CA. Once we have installed it in the trusted route, so the way we do it is you can just go and just install certificate. Obviously, you choose where to install it, local machine, and then you will go through and say, I'm going to install it into the trusted route, and then you say okay and next, but that's already been done. Okay, so now the machine trusts that CA, and it's going to trust every entity that CA has signed. So for this specific one, which is now the domain controller, has been signed by that CA. And if you look at the certificate here, we did see that. And if you look at the serial number here, the serial number, we can check this serial number in the issued certificates inside the CA itself. Notice that's the certificate that we have seen that was issued to this server. If you double click on it, that brings up the certificate issued by and issued to this AD server. And if you look at the details here, and if you look at the serial number, you will notice this is the one that we have seen when we looked at the machine. Yeah, that's the one with the serial number. For example, now what I would like to do is to create a certificate signing request and use the openssl tool. To openssl, you can generate, I call it answer file or config file basically, and we will be using that config file to attach to the openssl when we generate certificate signing request. You could provide these values obviously in the command line, but probably easier to just have it in an answer file, and we're going to call that answer file when we generate the certificate signing request, the CSR, for the mobility controller. So if you look at the dir here, we have generated the new key, private key. We have generated, using the conf file, a new signing request, which is simply the one that we're going to use, which is this one, when we submit that request to the certificate authority. Now we are on the web interface of the CA. What we're going to do, we will go back. So we're going to request a certificate, and we click on the advanced certificate request. So we're going to paste the certificate sign request that we have just generated, which is here, and we have generated this one. We're going to open Notepad. So you're going to copy the whole lot, and then right click, copy this, paste it here, and that's going to be for a network device. So because that's what we are going to generate certificate for, we will submit. Now we will download the certificate. So we're going to click on this. Certificate is downloaded. Save it. You can save it. So certificate was saved. Now we have the certificate. We can install it on the mobility controller. Now that is then the offline method of obtaining the certificate signing request. So what we're going to do, we will combine the certificate that was generated and the private key that was generated at the time when we created the certificate request, and we will make them part of the BKCS12 with extension .pfx, and then we will import that pfx formatted certificate into the mobility controller. So now let's check. Certificate was generated, the mc.pfx, and that's the date that we have posted or generated, is the personal information certificate, and then that is the one that we're going to import into the mobility controller. So now we need to import certificate. This is the mobility controller configuration, and we go then system, and in the system we go certificates, and in here you can clearly see the certificate was imported, but we're going to import a certificate. This is the way we import certificate. Now we give it a name, like in this case MC, and we would browse to the location of the certificate. That's where the certificate is located, which is BFX, yeah. And you decide the type of certificate, the format. I'll go BFX in this case. And remember, this certificate was signed by a CA, so the mobility controller has to trust that CA. So that's why you find another certificate being imported here. And the type of the certificate is a CA, trusted CA. We need to instruct the mobility controller to use that certificate configuration. System admin we go to authentication options, and we're going to say, okay, go and use that certificate. So basically the certificate that we are using, and we will submit, obviously, and then we will no change, because this is already being used, and we would use that. So when you log in, you'll see secure one. So now the controller is using the right certificate. If you would like to use the same certificate for the captive portal, you will do the same. So you go configuration, you go to system. In this case, you go to more, and in more you go to general here, and in here you can see that we can use the certificate for the captive portal. So it means when you go and redirect the user, you're going to redirect the user to the fully qualified domain name of the common name, basically, of the certificate. Example, in ClearPass, we will see which area in ClearPass, that's what we mean by this. So in a nutshell, you will use it inside the captive portal for the controller. For example, on ClearPass, when you create self-reg or web page, web plugin, so here, in this case, in the NAS vendor IDs or settings, we'll be using, rather than using secure -network, we're going to use this specific fully qualified domain name, which is the common name inside the certificate. So you come here, and then so when the guest client gets redirected, it will be redirected correctly with the same certificate name as the controller name, and that will not generate an error.